Welcome,
Well,
everyone. Welcome to the webinar. Good morning, everyone. My name is Clint Marks, and I will be your moderator for today's amazing AI and the Dark Web webinar. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to attend this exciting event. As technology leaders, we must stay ahead of emerging opportunities and threats presented by AI and illicit online activities. We've brought together experts to explore best practices and real world case studies. We will discuss navigating the intersection of technology and security. In this webinar, you'll hear unique perspectives on topics like how AI can be applied to improve security, efficiency, and innovation, while also discussing potential risks like bias and misuse. The major threats lurking on the dark web, from cyber attacks to fraud. How can businesses guard against these risks? This webinar is designed to help shape forward thinking strategies that leaders can adopt within their organizations. The webinar allows us to connect, learn from each other, discuss growth opportunities, and strategize with subject matter experts. Our hope is that this forum facilitates the exploring of new ideas, giving feedback, and developing strategies for your business. This engaging discussion, led by Philip Rogers, CIO of Protocol Networks, and John Flory, CISO of Harbor Shield Cybersecurity. They will offer insights on how AI and the dark web has real world implications for all industries. I will now hand it over to Philip Rogers and John Flory.
awesome.
Hey, welcome everybody. Um, I'm Philip Rogers from Protocol Networks. Here with John Flory. Thank you for spending an hour of your time with us in the middle of your day. I know how it's always hard to find that time. Um, we will try to get through as much as possible. For those that have talked to us and met us in the past, John and I rarely say hello in less than an hour. So we're going to do our best to plow through a couple of topics that we find interesting and that have actually come out of a conversation and a roundtable session that we had with some thought leaders on these topics about a month and a half ago, and got us thinking about what would be important for us to pass on to other people out there that they might find valuable. I'm going to kick off with a brief overview of generative AI and why it's something that you should be on top of with some call to actions in there, and then we're going to slip over to where AI is from a security perspective, and then a dark web conversation. John, is there anything that you want to throw out before we get this kicked off?
No, you got it. I'm great. This is such an important topic. I'm excited to share with you what's going on. The last 85 or 90 days, the game has changed from my seat, from a security perspective, and AI has a lot to do with it. So we're going to talk about how powerful it is, how dangerous it is, and really the best practices, and how to get our arms around it and to maximize it, because it's a powerful, powerful tool to help defend ourselves. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So, Philip, kick us off.
Sure. This is a brief run through of a longer conversation when it comes to uh, uh, um, um, AI, and I'm actually trying to get the deck to move.
See if I can, Philip. Maybe I can do it. I got you. You just
All
kind
right.
of give me a little. I'll read you.
Oh, all right. I'll give you a heads up because this is a slightly longer than the 10-minute version of it that we're going to do. Generative AI is a subset of larger AI, which is what everybody hears about. But generative AI really is the tool sets that people are actively using right now, as well as kind of intermediary tool sets that do things like they're the applications out there that are providing text, speech, even code samples, as well as legal briefs, however badly they're producing right now. But it's basically AI that is generating other content, and that we use that content in different segments of our of businesses. Um, from a marketing perspective, it's huge. We're talking in the trillions of dollars right now. It's only going to get larger, and it's also improving people's ability to do work effectively and efficiently, allowing people to kind of get that kickstart. I don't know about everybody else out there, but if somebody gives me the first section of a document or a piece of code, I have no problems working on it. It's just that blank piece of paper that can be intimidating. So from a generative AI approach, when you go in and it produces something that you can build off of, it makes my life a whole lot easier, and it kind of speeds up my ability to deliver some things. Um, right now what's going on, and it's really increasing quickly, is the context window, which is the amount of information that you can have. So when ChatGPT first came out, we were dealing with about 2,000 tokens. So that's the equivalent of a couple pages of text. Now when we're dealing with things like Claude, which is another free service with 100,000 tokens, I can literally throw two full 400-page books worth of information at it and have it process, all done for free. And that's only sped up and increased in the past couple of months. And from a multimodality standpoint, we're talking text and video and all these other rich things that are coming into it. Um, this is kind of this slide is actually prettier when you see the whole thing, but what it is, it's kind of an overview of what's going on. Talk specifically about GANs, which is the technical term for generative AI, which is generative adversarial networks. Because what it does is the actual applications themselves are trained against other data, so that's why it's considered adversarial. That's just a term that gets thrown out. The most common usage that people see about generative AI is text to text, Chat GPT. This is, and this is one of those quick samples, like give me a short document that will explain the Russian Revolution, as presented at a college level, things like that. That's where everybody's kind of using now. um, Text to text is getting more interesting. This is actually the new version of ChatGPT on the beta side that allows you to take an image, and what this image is actually a picture of the inside of a refrigerator, and saying, based on this image, tell me snacks I can make for my daughter's two friends that are coming over, and that I can make within 30 minutes from the things I have on hand.
Wild,
31 seconds later, you get it. Um,
wild.
when you're dealing with imaging like this, when you're looking to build a deck, in about 20 seconds, I threw in a couple absolutely silly things, such as a wide receiver catching a touchdown pass in the style of Van Gogh, and it pops up. The one on the right is a Death Star appearing over a medieval battlefield, and it takes these things and puts it together. Great for PowerPoint. Wouldn't necessarily want to build an entire advertising campaign around the output, but it really helps individuals that are coming up and doing this sort of thing. Bunch of tools to try. I think everybody knows Chat GPT. Claude, Claude.ai is absolutely fantastic. That's got the larger set of data that you can work with. Midjourney is the popular one for imaging. Runway does videos. You can actually give text and it'll build small videos for it. And 11 Labs. And my larger conversation, this is normally where I'll drop into the fact that I can take scenes from movies and run them through real time with the output in my voice, which is fun and interesting.
Wild.
All at the same time, seconds of work, um, $2 in cost. And it really is amazing what you can do. We can skip this one. This is just this is the meat of the slide, where I basically talk about a lot of different areas that you can go through. But for this group in particular, one of the things that I would recommend as a takeaway is, if you do not have a high level AI policy for your organization, create one. The first people to create one within an organization tends to kind of claim that ground. Um, IT, when it comes to AI, tends to be behind marketing and sales, and we really need to kind of get out in front of it, because marketing and sales tends to, and I apologize for the marketing and salespeople that are on the line right now. Marketing and salespeople have a different focus and a different approach, and things that they find key and important. IT tends to be a little bit more about managing risk, developing the oversights, for future proofing the technology. And it's really important that we kind of establish something proactive. Doesn't have to be good, it doesn't have to be complete. It just has to be a living document that's established now that we can build off over time. And if anybody's interested, they could reach out to Clint or any of the salespeople on here, and we can talk about, what are some sample small and mid-sized business AI policies that are 1 or 2 pages long that can kind of get you started. Just covers a couple of the key aspects and things that um, you should really be thinking about as your organization continues to grow. And one more, I think I got one more slide on here. And in that corporate AI policy, you're going to want to basically give a mission statement for it, cover the key principles that you're looking to cover. In this case, it's privacy, accuracy, security, responsible use, things that people don't necessarily think about, like employees can't use AI to simulate another employee while having a conversation in the workplace. It would seem to be everybody on this line would think that that's probably something we shouldn't do, but you would be surprised how often these things pop up, especially when these technologies are emerging, and you really want to be able to do that. Also, if you're dealing with generative AI and you're producing these volumes of information, you're going to want to make sure that you have double sets of eyes on anything that's going to go out with your company's logo on it, especially if you're dealing with something complicated or complex within these generative AI products, because people don't necessarily read closely. They'll read the first hundred words, and then they'll yada 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 through the next 400 and make sure it closes properly. So that's going to be great, and they'll send it out. But when you don't have human eyes over some of it, it can really be embarrassing. Um, it goes back to the kind of the legal brief, that a comment that I talked about earlier. Some people have been submitting things that are making up cases because the tool that they were using doesn't it wasn't necessarily told only use things that are real and in the case law, because that's how those generative tool systems work. You kind of have to make sure that you build effective barriers and boundaries into those tool systems before you send it out. And people are still learning about how the tools work, and right now we don't know what we don't know. So what I'm suggesting is when it comes to these actual governance policies, just put something together, get something out there, establish your stake, and make sure that where and by we I mean IT leaders are the ones that are kind of are the ones that are taking the lead on this, because these tools tend to really fall in the hands of sales and marketing. And as an IT leader, when we go up against sales and marketing, we tend to lose a lot of those conversations because at the end of the day, every CEO knows whenever the CIO calls him, he's just going to cost him money. And we want to make sure that we're looking out for the organization as a whole. So that's my spiel on generative AI. A bit about what it is, where it's going, how fast it's moving, and the call to action is: if you don't have a basic policy in place now for AI for your organization, pen one. Doesn't have to be good, but you just want to be first.
Yeah, I love this deck and what you went through, Philip. And I know you could switch us over to the next deck also. The policy is key. I'm going to talk. So I'm John Flory, Chief Information Security Officer, Harbor Shield Cybersecurity. Spend half of my time in incident response. Passion of mine also gives me a great view of what's going on. How are we being attacked? What are the best ways to help defend ourselves? How is AI? So if you look at the screen, that's what I'm going to start with. We're under attack, right? And I've talked about this on prior webinars with protocol, but old attack, phishing, new attack, phishing, old attack, you have good hygiene. It's a bad week, but you will recover. New attack, they methodically take your data over time. Once they have your data, they wait for the out of office. A lot of times we're seeing for the administrator, and then they encrypt you and they say, "Hey, we're going to go to the news, right? This is what we have, and you have till 5 o'clock today to make your decision." So where recovery is absolutely vital and huge, the extortion part of it is rampant. And I spend my time researching these organizations and then giving the facts. This is what they've done in the past. This is how they operate. It's crazy. They've built reputations. These criminal empires, they're knocking themselves off. Even we're seeing as the latest trend where they're literally saying there's some other organization because they have a great reputation. Once you pay them to not leak your data, etc. And any stat you see on the percentage of people paying, they're totally false. People pay so they don't have to report for that stat, right? So what we're seeing out there is with this extortion, people are paying. It's terrible. These empires in these non-extraditable areas are just well-funded machines. And it was interesting because in the fall, ransomware was a little bit slower. There's still people, absolutely, it's happening every day, etc. And crypto was a little bit weird at that time. But now what we found out what they were doing, and they were taking all of their resources and investing in AI, and now they're hitting us with AI. So I'm having people that call me say every day, John, I have SOC, SIM, MDR, XDR, SOAR, multi-factor. How am I being hacked? And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to show you a criminal's point of view on your organization. We spend so much time, right, looking internally at ourselves and having third parties look at ourselves, and that's important. It's what I've done it for almost 30 years now, right? That's the key. We need to do that, but it's really shifting. So we're going to show you today at Harbor Shield. We have access to a lot of reconnaissance and a lot of tools that help us. So we're going to talk about what we're seeing and what a criminal can see about your organization, because I had an opportunity. We were able to go after some people, get them extradited, arrested, retribution. It was great. And I was part of it was I was able to interview the hacker. And basically what he said is it's all return on investment. We're doing this to make money and it's speed. So you're outrunning your friend, not the bear, right? In a lot of this. So Philip, before I move on to the next slide, anything you want to talk about on this slide?
Sure. One of the things that I see right now from a generative standpoint is you could tell phishing attacks because of their flaws. You could look through the way that they're worded. You could tell that the English was off, or the web page that they were sending you just looked a little different. With generative AI, what you're able to do is go out and in seconds strip this page, build me another page using the same look and feel as this corporate page that has the following backend and functions, and give me the Perl script, or give me the Python code that I need in order to make this operate and work. So you've gone from the concept of of script kiddies looking for targets of opportunity to script kiddies that, if they understand what the tool sets are out there, the things that they used to the things that used to throw us off, and or throw them off and allow us to be able to catch them, um, in a lot of cases just unconsciously would look at something and we'd say that's just wrong. um, they're using the tool sets to kind of bypass that eye and test. And that's kind of terrifying to me, because that was always the last line, when things did slip through, that they didn't understand how your organization worked, or they didn't understand what roles were in the organization. And now they have those tool sets to be able to generate professional looking emails or infrastructure, and that's terrifying.
Amazing, amazing point. Our users, and I talked about the last 80 days here, our users are being hit and they're not going to be able to defend themselves. Now we understand their childhood, right? Everything about the target. So, and email filters are not being, they're not designed for mailbox takeovers. Right. So what we're seeing now is, like I talked about, the filtering, and I'm talking last 80 days. And we're going to talk about how, why, what's going on. It's not effective. It's a problem. The targets are the stakeholders and multi-factor because of this cookie theft, and we're going to talk about this is almost old hat to these criminals right now. Unfortunately, it's a must, and you have to have it. But there's a days where there was a comfort in having it that you felt pretty safe. We're going to talk about what I'm seeing right now and what's going on and how these things have to be watched, layered documentation, policy, automated intelligence from an incident response perspective. Some of what we're seeing is right here. They're scary. The first one's probably the most scary thing on the list, right? But some of what Philip said, this is hard for people to understand in the organization, right? That what do I do? Do I put my information in? Do I put company information in? Do I take it out? Do I use what they give me? Is this unfair or discriminatory? That's coming out of what the company has. So these are all very big dangers that are happening right now. So policy is absolutely huge. Start with the risk assessment. Treat it. If you're going to AI enable your organization, this is a must. This page. Take a picture of it because this is proactive and defensible. And the policy comes out of this because without the documentation, it's not real. We're I right now am dealing with an organization, $6 billion, privately owned company, 10,000 employees. There was somebody going to porn. The IT person got a hold of him, and the guy was like, "I didn't know. You didn't tell me I couldn't go there." Yeah, and I am not kidding. So this type of thing, who's going to govern it? Is this IT? AI, is that IT or is IT a part of this? It's very, very important. I see all the time IT taking on responsibilities that are beyond their control and it puts risk on them. So that's why these type of things are very important to do. And we'll send you this so you can have this, but it's key. We don't want to bolt on privacy and bolt on security to AI, right? We have to start it foundationally and then move on. From a defense tool, before I move on to this, when I think of a couple things, one thing is SOC. Think of a SOC analyst human, and think of a SOC analyst AI. A million investigations a minute. We just can't keep up. They could correlate, and they could be a very powerful tool. Think about availability from a security perspective. When you're having an autonomous car and you take your hands off the wheel going 70 around the corner, it's scary, but you're safer. So it's an interesting weapon that has to be managed, watched, like everything else. But without it, you're gonna lose. We talked about email filters, mailbox takeovers, what I'm seeing all the time. And we're going to talk about the dark web here and what is out there. What are people seeing? What is the dark web? What's the difference between I've been pwned and these chat rooms and everything else? We're going to talk about that, but there's so much what we call OSINT out there, which is open source intelligence, that hackers don't even need to scan you. They don't need to even do that anymore. And we're going to show you what they see. And we're going to talk about a defense, which is, and this is something that we worked with Protocol with, and that we are going to offer to everyone on this webinar. But it's, how does a hacker see my organization? We're not going to scan you. We're just going to show you and then allow you to fix it because this is what they're seeing. This is what OSINT has right now, and I'm going to show you it coming up. We're going to talk about this. So, being in incident response, forensics, we need information, right? So if you think about it and you're a criminal, speed is everything. You just got all this data and you have to monetize it as quickly as possible. That's the game in the criminal world. Speed is everything for us and for the crooks. They care about speed. So where they go is to these core offline groups and they say, hey, I have all this data. Who can help me monetize it? And then they put up the stand. So we work with organizations. It helps us, we work with law enforcement, DOD, et cetera, that are in these forums. So
Mm.
what it allows us to do is get very fresh data because it's important. If you look at a lot of the free dark web scanning information, it's going to be surface layer, which is fine. There's some value in this, but it's generally dated, resold lists. Anything you want to say about what I've said before I move on from this slide, Philip?
No, this is the stuff that you need to have an understanding of. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, people are the threats are smarter than they were just last year.
that's
They use their COVID year to do this.
that's exactly what they did. It is shocking, and we're going to talk about how it takes 5 seconds of your voice. You know how you used to answer, you didn't recognize the number. Hey, don't do that. So the Carolinas just had that kidnapping where a daughter called her parents, a college age daughter. It's AI, it wasn't her, and they believed it. That's scary, right? Oh, you're thinking that's your daughter? It takes 5 seconds of your voice. You're going to see a explosion of this cloning voice, video. If you think about, we used to be very upset with China because we would put up a business there and we had to tell them a bunch of information, and that made us very upset. That we gave them TikTok, we gave them a generation of every emotion, angle, voice inflection. You're going to see an onslaught of this coming on. So we're going to talk about. We need to understand, how do criminals see our enterprise? Who's communicating with us, and how risky are they? And what could they do to us? And what we're going to show you now is information that's been collected, curated, enriched, analyzed, and automated. So, what protocol at the end of this webinar, that's why you were contacted specifically, is they'll offer you what's called a cyber criminals POV threat assessment, which is basically, hey, I'm going to give you a scorecard. We're going to show you it, and it's going to show you how your company's doing. This is an example of part of it. This is called Spy Cloud. Spy Cloud is who we work with from an incident response and forensics perspective, and now a proactive perspective. And when I look at this, it's, even though I say medium, a lot of this is more than medium to me, right? One day ago was the exposure. There's a lot of credentials out there, so people are passworded out. They can't remember their credentials anymore. They just use their work stuff, right? Because it's easy. They can remember. Forget if they get a discount if they're at school or something. That's crazy. But they use their work and they don't realize that that's being sold immediately in clear text. What scares me is the 7 stolen cookies. So I told you about the forums. Here's what the hottest thing in these forums is right now, rampant. Remember, we talked about the low and slow. They methodically take your data over time. So now they profile you and they say, hey, John. And so they find out where I go, and then they steal the cookies. And then they have these auctions. John, for 25 bucks, John Flory, every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. goes here, and here's the cookie. And once they have that cookie, you're beyond authentication. You're beyond passwords, multi-factor, or forget if you say, remember me, or anything like that, then forget the timetable. Then it doesn't matter. They have a year, sometimes 18 months. Who knows how long it is? So you need to understand, is anyone stealing our cookies? Because if they are, these controls that we have in place, there might be on here something with a Russian password stealer, is something I'll show you, but That's a point in time. Goes in for a second, bam, takes a picture and leaves. Right. So for MDR, XDR, all this stuff, very, very hard to catch. Right? Very hard for you. So what we could show you is if I'm a cyber criminal, I don't have to. I told you before, I don't have to scan. I don't have to do anything. I'm going to show you what they see and how they can do it, and we can show you that so you can fix it. And a lot of times, it's who's hosting my website. I have to make them, etc. So we're going to show you. So this is an example of what we see in the dark web. We just did an investigation, and this guy's password, and he used it everywhere, was income 22 bang. Right? That was his password. And what he did was he opened up a bunch of burner email accounts. But you know what he used for a password? Income 22 bang. We correlated it like that for 1 second. So are our company passwords out there? If you click this right here, it would show you the password. So we like to block it out because without permission, etc. But then where was it seen? What breach? How recent is it? Is this user using any version of this password? Even in their personal life, it used to be people process technology. Now it's culture, people process technology. So this information is very good. Philip can give it to you free to understand. When was it? What was leaked? Philip, here's some raw data. So some of the things that you're going to be able to see on the scan are, hey, are there any credentials out there? Are they clear text? Who are they from? Where were they leaked? When? All this stuff. Were there any cookies stolen? Where are they? What was stolen, etc. But a big thing is infected machines. Are there infected machines in my environment that these criminals are selling for 25 bucks on the dark web? Because this is an example, if your machine is infected, of what they can see. And Philip, I don't know if you want to go talk about any of that or if it's blurry or.
Sure. This is the high level of information that somebody will get without doing a scan of your network. Where where you could traditionally see if you're being targeted because there's active scans going on. You could identify you being a target, basically because of the increase in activity. Um, without that lead indicator, especially for companies that are small and mid-size, we tend not to be targeted specifically for who we are. We tend to be targets of opportunity. So if they'll go through and they'll find information, they might not have ever heard of a specific bank or a law firm or an educational institution or something like that, but because they have the chance and the opportunity to do it, they're going to walk up, they're going to check the doors, and they're going to see what they can do. And once they get inside, then they'll try to figure out what the goal is.
Right
Um,
on.
so it's a little scary, and when it comes to the cookie perspective, it definitely makes me feel old because old man in the middle attacks, when you would have
Yeah,
one modem hooked up, a computer in the middle, and an external modem going out, where you would jump in the middle of a conversation, a modem conversation to validate yourself. Um, Kind of went away for the most part, but now it's really coming back from a cookie standpoint. So I guess
that's
all the
exactly
things that
what
are
it.
overdue again.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So if you look at this, you see the email address, domain name, the password in clear text. Uh, what else here? The browser, Google Chrome, the IP address, the machine ID. Okay, so like Philip said, they don't need to bother. Here you go. You want to wait? So I just worked with somebody and they're like, John, this user we fired 2 weeks ago. We already changed their credentials, not realizing that the criminals could see really what they changed the credentials to, right? So, really important to know how long has this been infected. All this stuff is really important, and it matters on how much the information is worth. But unfortunately, it's pennies to dollars. It's not a lot to get this. So what we have done for you, if you want to take advantage of, you talk to Clint or Ashley, is we have a 79.0 set that we could show you. It's going to talk about your network security, your DNS, your patching, your endpoint. And it's interesting because at Harbor, our CIO, he's tough. He likes to, for vendors, he's tough. For somebody that has something for them, he's really difficult on how he grades them. So we brought him our threat assessment, and it was laser accurate. He was absolutely shocked. He was bringing in people saying, "Look at this, look at this." So this is something that's important. This will also show you, hey, this is a nonprofit. Here's a nonprofit line, the blue line. Here's where you're tracking. Maybe it's better. And then we can start talking about ROI and different things for the board. That's the key to all this. Here's a snapshot. Here's where you're at. You're at an 82. I hate below a 95 personally, but you could literally say, "Hey, Philip, application security, why am I 71?" And we can show you. Okay. Uh, if you look here, a description, just to give you an example, this session ID does not have the secure attribute for a cookie, right? We just talked about that. Here's how you have to do to change it. Really, really easy. So we can help show you how a cyber criminal sees your organization. And it's interesting. And then you could put in your competitors because this is all information that's just out there. It's out there in the public. So you can understand, how do we rate? Are we better? SolarWinds is on here. And the reason I left it on here is because he just got arrested. This 90, he got arrested for basically lying and saying he had better security posture than he did. It's unprecedented, something that has never happened before that I know of. And that is scary for all of us. So this is what I want to talk about right now. Is before we do, you could chat in a question if you had it on anything we talked about. From there's a lot to unpack, but from an AI perspective, did we hit what you wanted? Is there anything that you were thinking about that we didn't cover? And B, from a dark web perspective, anything that sticks out or that you had a question or you wanted more clarity on, just pop that question in and we'll get to it. But here's the key. So we evaluate organizations, less than 30% of risk is in IT. Yet most organizations think that IT has our firewall, so that's our risk. And being an incident responder, all firewalls get beat, all technology gets beat. I don't care what they say. I sit on these panels where these vendors say, well, you get them, use our software, and we give you $1 million if you're breached, if you have ransomware, but we've never paid out the $1 million. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I've been involved with 5 breaches with that software this week. So we really looked into it, and we understand how this happens. And basically, there's about an 87-point checklist with this, and you're not operable if you're checking all those boxes. So it's something where you really have to unpack. We're being lied to, saying, "Oh, we will protect you from 0 day. We eliminate 0 day threats." You don't know. A 0 day threat means we don't know what that threat is. So how are you going to say that we are protected from it if you don't know what it is? So you just have to be careful. You have to layer it. You have to document. Policy is key. So the game is this: find our risk, identify it, document it, reduce it, document it, repeat. Proactive, defensible security. We're to a point now where our users are being hit with stuff where it's so cliche. It's weird because I was in Florida last week and I was coming home with the Uber, and he asked me what I did and all this, and I was telling him. He said that he was driving the Uber 2 weeks ago, and he had a thing to go pick up somebody, and he got a call saying, "Oh, our system can't work. We can't down." It was from Uber. He said it said Uber on the screen and everything else. When they called him, and he's like, "We have to give you the pay in a different way or whatever else." And he did. This guy even suspected it. He was like, "This sounds weird, but it says Google, everything else." He goes, "Well, or not Google. I'm sorry, Uber." He goes, "If you're Uber, cancel the ride right now that I'm going to pick up. He said the ride got canceled, and he ended up giving him all his information, and it was all a big hoax. So it's really scary for him right now. What's real and what's not real, and that's going to get worse. I think a question popped up. How do I get to it? Kristen, can you see that question?
Yes, I can. Give me 1 second. It says, for the cookies and credentials to be stolen, persistence on an endpoint must be established, correct? Done by traditional means of compromised emails / websites, downloading payloads, etc.
So it doesn't need to be persistent. That's why we talked about the Russian password stealer, etc. So we could have an offline conversation and actually go over specifically to show you how it's done and give you a live demonstration of it. But it's definitely scary from that perspective.
I
Um,
will say from the person that sent the question, uh, that was the theory for a long time,
right.
and it
That's
turned
important.
out to not be true, to some people's dismay. But yeah, that's what makes it even scarier.
It
Now,
does.
a lot of cases
Yeah.
it has to do with timing, and it's
Oh,
not simple, but it's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot more than we had thought.
they're timing you though. That's the whole thing. That's what these auctions are. Is it's the track record of the low and slow, which makes it really hard for our defenses to navigate against. I call it the low and slow, right? But where you're not persistent, right? Where you're going in at times, etc. And that's what I talked about before. It is a timing thing, unless for some reason you disable that and you say just remember me, etc. So, and there is a lot of that does go on, and we can talk about that too. But that's a great question. So the best way to do it is to have the defenses you were talking about, but then actually see, is my data out there? That's what we're talking about here. Is now let's look at the next level, which is, what are these criminals seeing? And is it right? And if it is right, let's fix it. That's what we're talking about here today. Um, so, awareness training and phishing. I'm sure most of the people on this call do this, but great way to win, right? Because we talked about identifying risk, documenting it, reducing it, documenting and repeat. We'll fish them. People will click. We'll say, hey, let's do this quick training on phishing. Then we fish them again, and less people will click, right? So that's your risk going down. That's your on a cadence showing that you're doing this. Uh, Incident response, true to my heart. So we work a lot with law enforcement, and really, when the FBI is on a breach, they say two things. They're great. They have a lot of information and they have a lot of OSINT, right? They have a lot of what we're talking about here. They have a lot of intelligence. But what they really say in the end, unless you're heavily regulated or DoD or something like that, is revert to your incident response plan. So you better have one. And if you don't have one, you're going to screw it up. And another thing is, I've been writing them for 25 years and we're good at it. And when we do a tabletop exercise, we practice it, we change it. So I would definitely have the plan, who's on the team, do they know their role, and then practice the plan once a year, because speed is everything, at least once a year. Speed is everything. And when you do the tabletop exercise, it's going to help this top left box of culture and bring some of the stakeholders into it, but it's also going to make you faster, right? When you practice it. Anything on that, Philip?
I'm a big fan of tabletop exercises, and I will say, for those that are looking for them, CISA has great resources for that, where you can just go out to the CISA website, CISA, in case my New York accent is bearing down on it. They have a bunch of tabletop exercise packets that you can download. You can run through your own organization. Um, we I think both protocol and harbor, we can help you with that too if if things come up. But I think the first one or two you can kind of run them internally. They're healthy to do. Um, if you want something a little bit more slightly complicated, or to throw some real time stuff into it, John is definitely the man for that sort of thing. To make them a little bit more interesting and fun. But those first couple whiteboard tabletop exercises, are right out there at CISA. Grab them and run your own cybersecurity scenarios. It's a great way of getting to your people in your organization to be thinking about this sort of stuff.
Huge. This
Mhm.
this the second thing I want to talk about is visibility, right? They know when you're not there. They know when your team's not around. They know when you have EDR. We are offensive security, so we're red teamers, purple teamers, um, and we know if they have EDR, we go somewhere else. So the key is make sure you have that complete holistic visibility, meaning endpoint, network, cloud, all of it, and then make sure it's being watched 24 by 7 because these criminals attack where you don't have visibility and they attack after hours. So that's really, really important. And SOAR, you're going to see down there. That's security orchestrated automated response. So be careful, and we can help you too. We're agnostic when it comes to these services because they're all a little bit different, right? So my advice is a couple of things. One, make sure they take accountability to remediate, even if you don't want them to remediate. Make sure that that platform isn't an alerting platform. It's a platform that they will take the alert and fix it if you so choose, maybe after hours, maybe up to a criticality, that type of thing. And then SOAR is security, orchestration, automation, response. And what that means is we want to get to a 95, at least 90% true positive rate, and then we want to automate because this allows us to become fast. So get that complete holistic visibility. Make sure you have a partner that has accountability in the game other than just giving you alerts. And then once you have that, get better till we get to a very high true positive rate and then automate with SOAR. That is a great way. So when you take this visibility and then the OSINT, open source intelligent visibility, that's where we're at now, is coupling that together. And then where am I getting my OSINT? Because a lot of SOC SIMs, EDRs say, yeah, we give you dark web scanning, but it's not up to snuff. I'm sorry. What is the data? How recent is it? What is it? Is it talking about cookies, or is it just talking about passwords? Is it talking about affected machines? All this type of thing. So what is the OSINT? And if you have that, I feel great about it. We talk about employees, how dangerous they are, third parties, biggest vector. Because if you're a criminal organization, you're going to go for the mass hit. And so, who are your third parties? What do they access? How important is it to you? How do we categorize them? And what do we ask of them? Right? Very, very important. When you do your assessment now, take a look because an old school assessment, it's important. The security risk and compliance assessment is so important. It's probably regulated in your industry. If it's not, it's important because it'll give you a baseline and an opportunity to win. We do the assessment and then we get wins again. They're identifying our risk every month, every week. We're knocking these risks off, right? Proactive and foundational. But you can get these on platforms now. So instead of having a once in a year assessment, you have it on a platform. It's not expensive. And then you could say, hey, I'm a 76 in this control area or this category. If I add this, it'll put my score to this. So then when it comes to budgeting, when it comes to stakeholder buy-in, etc., you have that tool. The last two things I'll stop, and then I'll stop and kick it to Philip and leave it to questions. Are we'll do a vulnerability scan for you, but we will show you not only what the asset is and it needs to be patched and it's or misconfigured or whatever, but we'll show you what data or PII is on the asset. So it's really important from a vulnerability management perspective to be able to understand, hey, I need to patch this and this is what's on it. This is how important it is. And we could go beyond PI. We could search for whatever you want. But when I help people with breaches, they're more important, or incidents, I should say. They're more concerned with what they don't know. So it's going to tell you, what data do we have, where is it, who has it, and then when I start my patching, really good to know from a prioritization perspective. And the last thing for the IT is, please have a data governance committee. If someone wants to add software, or marketing comes and they want to do this, that, or the other thing, I told you less than 30% of risk is in IT. So where is your risk? Right, in the organization. So this committee is important because you should meet at a cadence. And then when a vendor needs to be onboarded, or somebody wants to add something, IT is putting themselves with undue risk right now for things that they are not responsible for. So this will help to cover you. And what Philip said at the beginning was my favorite thing. Policy is key. If you don't have it, it doesn't exist. The process doesn't exist. Policy will help you when you get the knock on the door and somebody does something, because it's hard to avoid right now. And that's all I had, Philip.
No, I appreciate that. For those from the outside, I tend to approach things from the IT operations perspective. Protocol is not a traditional security company. We do things. We do security from the inside out, and then companies like Harbor Shield are the ones that focus on it. One of the things I say is, um, security should be a full time job. Companies should not also do security, and it's one of those things where if you do it well. So that's why we partnered with John and have for a long time. um, when it comes to these conversations, it's important to hear both sides. There are tool sets out there, there are capabilities, and then there's also the practical conversation about how do we make sure that we can afford it within an IT budget. So it's good to have multiple people having these conversations. And when it comes to conversations with John and I, we tend to be the people that, if you reach out to the salespeople and want to have a conversation with us, we we kind of come with the sales process. So, we'll be more than happy to talk to you. I'm sure I'm giving the salespeople heart attacks by saying that we're the free stuff, but we love to talk about this stuff. Love to talk about exercises and things that you can do, resources that are available. I pointed you guys at CISA. CISA over the last couple of years has just been an absolute fountain of good stuff that's out there. For the most part, the things that you want to do are cheap or free. We come in to be able to help you with the things that are more expensive, more detailed, and once you start to do those things and establish good IT policy, security, and security hygiene, that's when companies like Protocol and Harbor, we can come in and we can help you kind of go to those next levels. But if you don't have these things in place, there are plenty of free resources to kind of get you started, and we're more than happy to have conversations around all of these things as you're going through that process.
Yeah, we'll definitely do the dark web OSINT for you. So Ashley and uh,
Clint.
Clint, yeah,
Yep.
they'll be the ones for that. So thank you very much. We're here if you have any questions or you need us for anything.
Yep. And if anything pops up, or if you've got specific questions about things that we've addressed, didn't address, want to have conversations about deep thoughts about IT policy or security, we're out there and available for those sorts of things. All
Cool.
right, Clint. I don't know if that's kind of John and I. That's our our dog and pony show is done. Is there
That's a
anything that you
wrap.
want to do before we wrap up?
Thank you for joining us, everyone. I believe it was a compelling webinar, providing insights into what it actually takes to secure your business, how to prevent cyber attacks, mitigate risks, and keep your company secure. I thought it was very engaging with regards to the generative AI systems discussion. Generative AI will allow you to continuously learn and adapt based on feedback and new data. And this capability allows models to improve their performance over time. We thank everyone for joining the webinar today, and stay tuned for more information to follow. Thank you,
Yeah,
everyone.
I do think that we're going to have a few more on AI, and we'll see where those go.
Awesome. All right, take care.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.